Okay. I did it.
40.
We're here. We're
Somewhat.
here.
We're here somewhat.
Yeah. Oh, I did not put it on Facebook today. And it's too late to do that. So, YouTube only tonight.
I threw it up on Instagram that we're on YouTube, or YouTube anyway.
Yep, I forgot to
Least
click the
now.
Facebook button. Oh well. It's one less thing to have to think about. And last week it wasn't pulling up the people who were commenting's names, and that was annoying me because it was out of a private group. Even though it's not a private group. The Brazen fan page is not a private group though.
Public.
So that was the suggestion, was that it was coming out of, maybe it's because it was coming out of a group and not out of a page, but I have to go back in and reset up everything on the backside to publish as Brazen.
Our main, the meta page, right?
Yes, and then share it to wherever.
Yeah.
But yeah, good evening, everybody. Good
Thanks
evening.
For joining us.
Yeah, we'll get right into the weather here because I'm still wearing a hoodie right now. However, Friday night it snowed about 2 inches here, and then Saturday and Sunday it was like mid-50s, so most of the snow melted. And then today it was 65. Tomorrow they're calling for a high of like 72 at 5 p.m. And then by Wednesday morning at 7 a.m., snow. So it's going to go from 72, is what they say, at 5 p.m. tomorrow to snowing before 7 a.m. on Wednesday morning.
All right.
If I don't get absolutely wrecked with a cold or sinuses, I'm going to be surprised around here because this is just wild. So bipolar, one extreme to the next.
Yeah, there was people swimming yesterday in the creeks because it's 85 down here in February.
I bet the water cannot be warm at all, though.
I wasn't even gonna entertain the idea, but they were real swinging.
Theron says it's 72 in Kansas. I think it's 60 here right now. While I'm looking up the temperature here, I saw that Three Brothers posted Hibby hooks with all of their one of their specific winches. Getting winch hooks from Hibby for every winch, which is super cool. Happy for Hibby. That's an awesome thing to have happen. Currently 59, feels like 57. 34 in northern Michigan. Gross.
Ugh.
But yeah, it snowed here Friday, and it's supposed to snow here on Wednesday. But today was 65, tomorrow 72.
If we had that weather down here, say it was 85 today and it snows tomorrow, this place would probably shut down. Yeah, they would be like, it's illegal. They would like martial law.
It's illegal. Go home. It's illegal.
Stay.
Yep. 40 in Jersey, but I was in a t-shirt. 63 in Greenwood. I was in a t-shirt this afternoon, like at the end of the day. Of course, it's 8 o'clock here now, so when I was driving back in, I just grabbed my hoodie and threw it on because it'll be 40-something when I leave here. So 50 in Montana yesterday. Currently snowing, high of 14 tomorrow. Yeah, lovely. Low 60s in California, rain coming Thursday.
I felt like
I'm so tired.
I grabbed a sweatshirt and it was only 60 degrees.
I'm so tired of wearing hoodies and jackets and coats. Like, I feel like I've had a hoodie on since September, like early September. And it's the end of February. I'm so over it. I'm ready to be in t-shirts and shorts and complaining about 90 degrees and floating in my pool with a beer in my hand and just not even caring about anything else. But
I was in shorts and t-shirt and complaining it was almost 90 degrees. Dude, if it's this bad in February, this summer, dude, I might not actually go outside.
You're going to move to somewhere else?
Dude, I'm going to migrate north for the summer.
Yeah. Just move to Utah.
That's
You've talked about it. Just do it.
I got a couple spots, man. I don't know. Or on the back end of that, it'll be too hot for all the recent movers here, and I'll move back, and I could possibly afford a house here, maybe.
No, probably not.
Yeah, that's a long shot, but
they'll keep their vacation homes.
Oh my god, yeah.
Man. So last Tuesday we released the Frontline chassis. Selling pretty all right. I was not. I was expecting a little bit more of a planned release, but I decided to let it go. Just turn it on. So, but sold pretty good for the first week. So we'll see how it keeps going.
I'm pretty sure people are up for the challenge. I think people like the weird stuff, man. We kind of do some weird stuff.
Yeah. There you go. Tom's got a pretty good idea here. I almost commented on this the other day. I was watching Wednesday night live stream takeover with Harley and Matt, and they were talking about something that got my brain going. Did you see the Heavy D? The Nikola Badger, the electric truck project.
Yeah.
That Heavy D actually bought that project and owns the Badger name. Well, he's partners, but owns that project now. That's a big step.
That's cool.
That's pretty cool. The truck looks really good too. I am personally I'm so 50-50 torn on EV vehicles because when I travel, when I drive, I take big shit or heavy shit with me, or I'm going on a very long drive. Same. And I looked into 2 or 3 years ago, whenever Nationals was in Alabama, I looked into renting a Tesla to drive to Alabama and back. And it's like an 11 and a half, almost 12-hour drive. Call it 12 hours with stopping for gas. You can plan on Tesla's website your route, and it'll tell you where you're going to have to supercharge and whatever, and for how long. And it added 4.5 hours to the drive because you had to go out of the way to get to superchargers because places like Southern Kentucky and Southern Tennessee and North Alabama, there's not a whole lot of places to charge EV vehicles currently. And even if there were places to charge EV vehicles, when you're towing things like a Jeep or anything, or a camper or anything like that, your range gets so terrible with the current technology that I just can't. I can't tie myself to that. I would still have to have my gas truck or a diesel truck to pull my Jeep around with. Now, having something that I drove back and forth to the shop in town, or drove to deliver packages to UPS or USPS, or run the kid to school and back, whatever, I do totally see how that could be 100% beneficial and how it could save a bunch of money. Like if I had an EV that went 250 miles on a charge, I could charge that thing once a month. You know what I mean? Realistically. So I could see it, but I travel too much, and when I travel, I take heavy shit with me. Speaking of Three Brothers a minute ago, he has, I think it's a BMW EV, and he's been keeping track of, traveling in the cold and towing a small trailer and things like that, and he's been really happy with it. But I'm towing a Jeep, or I'm towing a camper, or things like that, so I just can't. But looking at the Badger, that's a really good looking truck, and so is the Rivian. I like the R1T and the R1S Rivians. I do. But they're freaking $90,000. If I'm buying $100,000 vehicle as a secondary vehicle, I feel like I'm not in that tax bracket yet to have $100,000 secondary vehicle.
Yeah. So we have all of those. I see every day. I see Rivians, the Lucid, the Teslas are getting out of hand here.
Yeah.
I know that Gary from 110 just got his Lightning, and
Yes, I was going to bring that up too.
He's been driving it to Oklahoma, I think.
Yep.
I don't know the charge details, but he doesn't seem to be doing too bad. But
I haven't seen him post a single bad thing about the truck. Honestly, he seems to really like it.
Yeah, but I'm with you though. Like, I'll drive probably 600 miles a day during a road trip.
Yeah, 600 to 900 miles a day.
Couldn't do it. Also,
Yeah.
Man, that $90,000 Rivian in 2 years is probably going to be on the used market for 30.
Yeah,
And
actually,
fault codes. All these EVs have. I don't know. I'm also not super. I'm not fooled by like videos and like trips when they do what they do with those, because there's always a support vehicle. So basically, you buy a Suburban and you follow it
and follow it around. Yeah, Hoovie's Garage is a guy out of Wichita, Kansas. He had a Lightning F-150 that I think he bought. He's like a partner bought. Him and another guy bought it, and he tried to tow like a Model A or something like that, and the mileage was atrocious. They gave you clown juice. Move that straw again. They gave you clown juice, not Baja Blast.
Oh, it's lubricated now.
Yeah, it's clown juice. Anyway, he one of his videos went pretty viral, complaining about the mileage on the F-150 Lightning, and he just showed a Rivian R1T that was on the used market at a local dealer, and he has I think he has 2 Cybertrucks ordered, and he found this R1T and was like, I might cancel one of my Cybertrucks and buy this R1T because it's just way better.
Yeah.
But he does enough videos that I trust. He's pretty honest and open. On RC topic here for a second, what would I have to do to use the BTA servo mount with the Frontline chassis? It's just not possible. You just can't. The Frontline chassis, the distance between the front of the skid or where the motor is and the axle, you would have to use it. Okay, if you could potentially use a micro servo with a servo strengthener, you might be able to custom make a BTA servo mount to get the servo behind the axle, but you'd have to have some sort of a strengthener or something to make a micro servo strong enough to steer the truck. So that was one of the big issues with moving. The reason that they had to make the stubby kit was because when you move the servo from on top of the axle to behind the axle and turn it 90 degrees, the transmission was in the way. So they had to shorten the transmission by 22 millimeters in order to have clearance for that servo to be behind the axle. I moved the skid area 20 millimeters forward on the Frontline chassis. So there's only a 2 millimeter difference between what the shortening of the transmission is and where it's moved up to. So it's literally just not even possible. You could potentially do chassis mounted servo. I don't believe there's any reason why you couldn't do chassis mounted servo. You would have to modify further the front brace. Where the front of the motor mount is on this, there's normally a web in here. You have to trim all that webbing out for the servo to clear. So you would have to cut all that out to do a CMS also. But realistically, it's a servo on axle type of setup. It's just the way it is. Unfortunately, I wish I could have gotten the servo behind it, but there's not enough room between the front pinion and the front lower link to turn the servo sideways. That's why the servo went along the drive shaft instead of across the axle. Just because there's just not enough room there. If there was room for the servo to be across the axle behind the axle, it would, you could do it that way, but there's not enough room. It's just an unfortunate fact of the build.
Do we have that like on the site, like not compatible, or?
I have it as you have to have the stubby kit. It's a servo on top of axle. It's in the description of the chassis. So I mean, unfortunately, like I said, that's just the way it is. So when you look at the hard line versus the front line, you can see how far forward, like these front upper links, that's how far the skids move forward. That's like 20 and a half millimeters is what it actually comes out to. So
with all these options we have, you gotta kind of know approximately what you're building, or know not what you're building, like what your objective,
what your end goal is.
Yeah, just because minor stuff like that, you will kind of, I didn't need this, or dang it, I should have got this.
Right. And also a follow-up question from the same person: does the Frontline perform better than the Hardline? They're different builds, so they're going to perform differently in different scenarios. I personally, on most terrain, I prefer the Hardline, but on places with sharp breakovers or steep long climbs, the Frontline would be better because there's more forward weight bias. The Hardline seems to the Hardline downhill's better because the weight bias is a little more equal. It's like 60-40, where the Frontline was like 68% on the nose, built the same way with the same parts. So the Hardline would downhill a little better in most scenarios, but the Frontline would break over better because the skid's forward. And with the link setup I have, it's right up with the drive shaft, where the Hardline, the rear lower links are not as aggressive. So it just, like Wesley just said, you have to plan what you want long term in the build, and they'll perform differently.
I think as we get into this time and like our development, we have all these frame options. That's something people might run into because we never had. What does that make? Like 9 different frames?
No, if you're counting all of 23 and currently in 24, that's 13 chassis.
So you got 13 possible builds.
Yeah. Capper axles would work well. However, the only reason to use the Frontline on a custom build like that would be to use the VRD skid. If you're going to build a custom truck with Capra axles front and rear, why would you use the VRD skid? You could use any transmission and any flat skid that you wanted. With Capra axles, you're going to end up with custom links anyway, so you might as well use a custom skid and custom links and a custom trans too. I've always said this: the VFD transmission is a very tall transmission. Yes, the motor is low, and yes, the motor is forward, but it's still a tall transmission. If you compare something like an ATL Pro V2 chassis with a hardline chassis, and you line up the height, the top shock mounts as your height differentiation, there's that much difference in belly height between an ATL Pro V2 and the VRD carbon chassis. I'm going to scoot my chair. I'm not getting up.
He's out of frame. Look out, Matt.
Nope, I didn't get up. I had found my tape measure. There is almost a 1-inch height difference between the Pro V2 and a VRD carbon chassis. So if you take the VFD transmission and you put it in something like Pro V2, the spur gear height is above the top of the shock towers. There are so many transmissions that are so much shorter and so much more compact than a VFD that I would much rather use one of those in a competition than a VFD. Now, the VFD is a very stout transmission. I've never broken one, but I will stand tall on my statement that it is a gigantic transmission. It's just as gigantic as the 10.2 kit trans that came out in 2016 or whatever it was that they built damn backwards. Fools.
I have one of those if anybody wants one.
Actually, I need one. I do need one, actually. So
I'll get it in the mail.
Is the Frontline skid as far forward as a high-low / mullet? No, it is not. If you were to put the front bumper of the chassis up against a wall, and you were stating if you had a measurement line at the front link pivot of the VFD or the VRD carbon chassis, the hard line or the front line, is 20 millimeters forward. The high-low is about another 15 millimeters or 17 millimeters further forward than that by bumper placement. If you measure between the front bumper hole and the front link pivot point, so it's a little more than halfway on the front line versus a high-low.
The high-low is about as far forward as you can go without your links becoming too kinked.
So, and that the front line is about as far forward as you can go with the stock skid. I had to make bent links because you bottom out the rod ends against the sides of the skid here if you don't run a bent lower link, and you have to turn the bends so that they are, bent, the wrong way that you would run a normal high clearance link. They're bent out instead of up on a high clearance link. I'm doing my SORCA Class 3 with an ATL V2, VFD Twin, and SS Deluxe. I think you're doing yourself a disservice with that transmission. I think you'd be just as well off with a 3-gear with a Hertz dig unit as with a VFD Twin. you'd probably save some weight. They're going to be about the same height, but you're going to save a bunch of length and you're going to save a bunch of weight doing it that way. If you're doing a class 3 and you're doing front and rear SS Deluxe front and rear Capras, I would just do 4-wheel steer and forget the dig if it were me. I'd run a Deluxe hamburger, cheeseburger trans, and do 4-wheel steer.
Dig's cool to see, but man, for the amount of steering you can get now versus when Dig was popular, rear steer.
Yeah. I know that SORCA allows you to have rear steer and dig now, and you can use them both at the same time, and it's not a penalty, but it's extra weight, it's extra complication, it's extra shit to go wrong. I prefer rear steer over dig.
I think most class 3 lines are winching anyway. Get
Right.
a good winch.
Yeah. What's your opinion on the Stealth XF trans? Is that the element trans that's like built into the skid that you can't even change the skid plate? I mean, you can change the skid plate, but it's like got gear pockets molded into the skid and all that stuff. I'd rather have the regular Stealth trans, I guess, in my opinion. But again, if I was going to pick a transmission to use, that wouldn't be it. That wouldn't be the one I picked.
If that was all I had, I would use it, but man, I would just grab a Deluxe or something small.
Yeah. For the crawling I do, dig is better than 4-wheel steer. I think like a 30 or 40% overdrive with 4-wheel steer will do exactly what dig will do. In most situations. There are going to be situations where dig is going to be what you want to do. But if you have 30 or 40% overdrive and 4-wheel steer and it's set up nicely to where you have, exponential 4-wheel steer, not, 3 or 5 position. If you've got your rear steer on a knob instead of a switch, I don't see myself getting in a situation where dig would be what I had to have.
It'd have to be some off-kilter, super grippy rocks, maybe. I don't know.
Have you heard of anyone using a TGH Ford motor with a RC 4-wheel drive transfer case? I did see somebody on one of the RC 4-wheel drive pages that had made some custom brackets for a TGH Ford motor mount and was running like the 1-to-1 transfer case. It wasn't an overdrive transfer case at all, but it's just, all you need is a prop shaft from the motor mount to the transfer case. It should be a pretty simple setup.
It's the definition of a transfer case.
Yeah. I feel like I need an S-shaped front upper link on my latest skid forward build. The link is so short the rod ends are bound up. That is the fine line that you tote with forward skid builds, especially if you're trying to build in SORCA rules, right? So you're trying to keep the front tire, at or right within legal tolerance of the front bumper or the front of the body, right? So you have to keep the front link super short, and that's what ends up happening. And that's why I had to run, the bent links on this, because they get bound up either against the skid or they just get bound up against themselves because they only have so much travel. And they may be fine at ride height or they may be fine at compression. But when you start flexing the axle side to side, which is what happens when you drive the truck, they get bound up. SS Deluxe, 4-wheel steer with Deluxe NOD trans, and a high-low or ATL V2. Class 3 or cheater, because that's going to change my answer. If it's a Class 3 truck, I personally prefer the ATL V2 because of the belly height. The high-low belly height is lower. The skid is, 35 millimeters forward, but it's about 10 millimeters lower also. So, I mean, you're running a 5.25 inch-ish tire So it doesn't really matter that much, but my personal pick would be a Pro V2, or I built my personal C3 truck with 4-wheel steer on a C1 Pro. I think Wesley would disagree with me on this. He would probably pick a high-low.
Honestly, man, you kind of lose me in Class 3. Just the big tires, man. I can't. I'm kind of a stickler on body proportions, and I could get behind like the We Rock fad that's coming to.
Yeah.
But I've not. Class 3 doesn't really. Because then I see portals with 5-inch tires, and I'm like, that thing's like 10 feet off the ground. So honestly, you can do like whatever you want.
I'll tell you what, though, at Hammers, seeing all these 4-wheel steer portal buggies on 43-inch stickies cruising around Hammertown was like, damn it, I need to spend $100,000. Like, they're so cool.
I could have bought the Dragon Slayer for $225.
Right. Doing 4-wheel steer, and you can use dig and overdrive, and the full-size comp driver in me wants all the tools. Too many sticks. You're going to end up with a damn airplane radio like like Aaron Stacy, a local guy here. Yeah. Aaron Stacy runs a stick radio. Ultralight Portal Trans is nice. Yes, it is. And it's simple. I have OD, will not make obstacles that dig will. Where are you located, Chainsaw? I want to come play. I don't even have a rig with 4-wheel steer, and I want to come play. I refuse to winch a tiny truck. Rather lose and drive than win and winch. Tom, I kind of understand where you're coming from, and Wesley does too. And one of our team drivers, Jason, is so vehemently against winching in tiny trucks. The problem that we have brought ourselves to is that these trucks are so freaking capable, and drivers are so smart about their points and their time. So we make these rules, and it's about points and time, right? But every single driver, if you have 100 drivers that sign up for nationals, every single driver is pointed out on every single one of their trucks if they're there to win, right? So take points out of it. Now it's a time race and a brain race, because I have to be smart about the points that I waste, but I also have to hurry, right? Because it's a time thing now. So we build these trucks that are so capable that we don't have to worry about how capable they are anymore, and it becomes a time race. Then the top 25 finish well within the time, and it becomes a half a second or a quarter second, and that's the click of a thumb on the timer, right?
Or a hesitation.
So then, yeah. So then we have to make the courses harder and harder and harder and harder until people stop finishing the courses, because the trucks are so damn good and the drivers are so smart that it becomes a purely time race. This is supposed to be points, difficulty, and time. And we've taken two of the things out and made it only time, so we have to make the courses harder. Unfortunately, that means winching sometimes. Crawlapalooza last year was the first Crawlapalooza that I've ever pulled winch line at. The last 2 years prior to that, I ran Class 1 and Class 2, and I never pulled cable, which is annoying. Dude, I finished like 20-something in Class 1 and like 40-something in Class 2 and never pulled cable. Like, it's purely time, and that's super frustrating because the top 10 could be separated by 2.5 seconds. Nobody got any points, and it's all separated by 2.5 seconds. So there has to be something, whether it's a winch stick or winch anchors or something. We have to make the courses hard enough that people struggle. If we're trail running, I'm not pulling cable to trail drive. I'm picking that fucker up and moving it. Like, I'm just not. I'll practice winching. I'll practice gates, but I don't know. I see both sides, but It is what it is.
Also, if I'm gonna be spending, close to a hundo on a nice winch, I'm gonna use it.
Close to 100. I wish my winches were like on the south end of 200. Like,
Dude,
yikes.
I bought a real winch for my SUV.
For the same money.
I can hang my SUV from a tree for the same money as some of these winches. All right.
Yeah.
I pick and choose my battles. Why does Wes have that 3-year-old winch? That's why.
Yeah. I wish there was a strong rod end option like the bent axial ones. Yeah, me too. There's a place for them. Zach Cantrell says high-low for sure. Zach's also a forward skid guy.
It's like
Colorado, the best crawling. Colorado and Utah are on my bucket list for 2025.
Man, so
my wife will tell you we're going to Hawaii because it's our 10-year anniversary. So I might end up with the Hawaii guys instead of Colorado and Utah. But if Nationals happens next year and if it's in Utah, I'm stopping in Colorado on my way to Utah, and I'm going to knock 2 things off my bucket list at the same time: 1-to-1 crawling in both states and RC crawling in both states.
I'll take you.
And I'll make my wife pay for the Hawaii vacation.
You can drive the toter home up or down Blackberry.
It'd probably make it. It wouldn't look the same, but it'd make it. Have a Noble Pro. My rear steers on a thumb wheel so I can control front and rear simultaneously and dig is my 3 position right there. I run a Noble Pro too, so that's I know how you're working with that.
The back on the venue topic, there is I don't know if anybody in here has ran with me in the Austin group, but there's this park, Inks Lake, that there was a park ranger on a bender one day. I had about 30 people show up and pay to get into the park, and they kicked us out. I won't go into it too much further, but the guy was on some trip. We didn't even get on the trail. He just saw us with trucks on our tailgates, but across the street is a property. I was going to get on like Onyx Hunt and find the property owner because I'm pretty sure that would be a prime. If you went to RMRC, this property would make that look like child's play as far as sticky granite. But if I can get in touch with the property owner, there's a huge area of camping. There's a state park across the street, hotels down the road. I see some potential, and it's about an hour from the airport. Maybe an hour 20, but that's about the same as RMRC, if I remember right. But I don't know. I was potentially going to look and try to figure out how to get in contact with the owner of this property.
If it's private property, I'm sure. You know what? Like, if I owned property like that and somebody got a hold of me and was like, hey, man, listen, we play with little RC cars and the park won't let us play because they're motorized vehicles. Is there a way, like, can we, we'll pick up after ourselves. We don't litter. We don't tear stuff up. Like, be more than happy to meet with you, show you what we're talking about type of stuff. I'm sure. Dude, if I owned property and I wasn't into RC cars, I'd be like, don't freaking hurt yourself. Like,
yeah, I'm at the stage
where sign this waiver right here, and you can do whatever you want over here.
yeah, I'm at the stage where I'm inquiring about like porta potties and like what the recommended amount of porta potties is for X amount of people.
Yeah,
I think it'd be a really cool spot, but
yeah,
I need to do like a trail run with just like the locals. Maybe a local Central Texas town. But
come to RC Rock Dock and play. Tons of technical and scale trails located in Amherst, Ohio. Let me see.
Rock dock? You want to dock rocks?
Amherst, Ohio. Just a little over 3 hours away. That's almost to Cleveland. I could make a trip over and visit Tim Weiss. Basically, so you're right off of 8090. And from my shop to 8090 is about 2 miles, would you say, Wes? Probably about 2 miles. Straight north of me is 8090. I get on one road and I can hit 8090 from my shop. So it's almost to Cleveland. That's not out of the realm of options. I'm gonna jump on Facebook. I'm assuming there's a Facebook page for RC Rock Dock. The RC Rock Dock. I'm going to like that, and I'm going to screenshot that so I can see it later. Because I will absolutely forget about that.
He says we have a dock for all the rocks.
That new TGH winch. So Wesley and I were talking about that this morning for probably an hour this morning. We were discussing that.
That
winch.
Chatting back and forth.
Yeah. I have talked to Chris about that winch multiple times. Chris and I talked on a Zoom call one evening for a couple of hours about it when it was in the design phase, about how to mount it and things like that. It's a great looking winch. I think it's going to take some work for a lot of people to mount it. Chris is working on a bunch of different mounting solutions for it, and there are a bunch of different holes around it to mount things to. The pictures that they posted, you can see some 3D printed fair leads and things like that. I think a lot of the mounting solutions are going to revolve around a little bit of 3D printing for fair lead type stuff. But Wesley was talking this morning about it, and I will let him finish my sentence here.
So, given the shape of that guy, I was thinking of a solution similar to these front trays, where you would just not have this front tray. This would be strictly a pass-through for the winch cable, fairly, but it would bolt into this, but like right there in the middle. Hopefully sitting, it takes some finagling on my end, but hopefully sitting right above where the your servo on axle would be.
I don't know if you could get servo on top of axle. I don't think you could mount that winch underneath that tray and still get a servo on top of axle. It'd have to be a BTA.
Yeah,
it's a fairly large. The unfortunate part about it is that he wanted to make it such a strong and fast winch that he had to use a big motor and a big gear set. So unfortunately, it did end up a little larger than what I would consider to be a compact, winch. It's probably the size of a servo or maybe a little bit bigger. So think about trying to hang a servo underneath there and still having a servo on top of the axle.
Oh no, it wouldn't go under. It wouldn't go underneath this tray.
It'd have to go on top of it.
You would just not have this tray. Is what I was suggesting.
Oh, you're talking about having a totally different tray, totally different mounting option at all.
A proprietary mount just for that.
Gotcha.
But
gotcha.
It'd be one and done. Like you're set.
It would be a specific part for that setup.
Specific, yeah.
Yeah. We got West Desert Wheeler in the house tonight. Thank you, Logan, for checking in with us. Logan's been running his hardline and posting a bunch of YouTube content with that. Seems to be liking it pretty well, and I'm glad he is liking it because I'll admit I was a little nervous. I really liked the truck, but I know Logan really likes his tube chassis, and I know he really likes his four-wheel steer stuff.
Yeah.
And when he told me he was going to do straight axles on it, I was like, man, I know this guy likes four-wheel steer portal buggies, and he's going straight axles on this. Like, I hope he likes it. and he seems to be liking it. The comments he's made to us about it, and his reactions on video seems like he really does like it. So I'm glad for that. I'm glad he likes it. We have a dock for all the rocks, right by Smiggin's Folly. Okay, I might. So Turks and Jerps was messaging Wesley about his 3D printed body stuff.
You know what? At first I was like actually bummed, but after I'm glad he reached out because I've been making some pretty good progress on this, but I'm not at the point to where I'm gonna finish because I have paint matched Lexus Nebula Gray. If I had painted that and then cleared it, and then someone told me that the putty I used to sculpt, so I probably have an 1/8 of an inch layer right here of sculpt, just to blend. And then like small little sections I have a good little bit here. But if I had painted and then cleared this, and then someone said that puddle, so I guess I was looking into it, that putty has oil in it and it dries and shrinks or something along those lines. If I would have done that and it cracked and broke, I would probably duct tape this to a 4-wheel drive slash and ramp it off a bridge. I would have been so done for this.
100 hours of 3D printing and 200 hours of finishing just ruined.
So I was sad, but I'm glad he reached out and let me know before I went way far into the fine details of that. So I'm gonna do, I'm gonna grind off what I have, and he recommended some epoxies and some finish glazes. So I ordered 2 of those. I have those coming, and it's gonna get done right.
Yeah.
So the more you know, don't use the spot putty for more than just cracks.
Yeah.
I guess
Cleveland is 1 road for me, but 7 hours. Cleveland is 1 road for me, but it's like 3.5. So. Logan says, it's been surprising me with what it'll do. Awesome chassis. I've recommended it to a few people and having a blast driving it. Still love portal buggies too. I have seen a couple of hardline orders come through from Utah, and even one from Hurricane, Utah, which I know is reasonably close to Logan. So there's going to be at least one more pretty close to you. I do love 4-wheel steer buggies too. I need to build one. My problem is I have to drive like 4 hours to play with it. Like, I really would love to look at one on the shelf every day, but I would realistically only drive it 2 to 3 times a year, which is super unfortunate. But I do love the way they look. I don't know that I can justify spending $2,000 to build a WeRC, We Rock type 4-wheel steer buggy. It's very tempting, and again, I love the way they look. I just don't know that I can commit $2,000 to something I'm only going to drive a couple times.
Yeah,
I say that, but my freaking Class 1 truck's $2,000 if you add it all up in retail. My Class 2 truck's the same or more. So it's not out of my wheelhouse to spend a couple grand on an RC car, but at least I know where and when I'm going to drive those. I can spend $500 building a VRD and be done with it, or $2,000 on a 4-wheel steer buggy and never drive it. Hell, I built a Class 3 truck last winter and I drove it in my shop one time and I sold it. So I see you've got your headlights and whatnot in front of you. You were working with Josh on those.
Yeah, so Harley was working with the Forms tool in Fusion, and I was like, I'm going to give it a shot. He said, I approached him. I was like, hey, would you be interested in a small project? Hesitantly enough, he asked what do I meant. or what's a small project.
Yeah. What are you trying to get me into here, bud?
So basically, the model I have the base headlight and taillight buckets.
I would like to put it on record that Wesley got out of his chair.
Hey, I'm not. Yeah. So I have the lens, or I have the bases of the lights. It's probably never gonna like focus on that, but
Those are your the light buckets on the backside of the body.
yeah. So the model I got off Colts doesn't have anything to 3D print a lens cover for. So I was curious if you could use the form tool in Fusion and create a wrap, which you then can. So I originally reached out because I knew that Harley had the Lexan vacuum form. So my idea was to make a mold, vacuum form the Lexan over it, and then a lens. So
and again, we talked about this over text, but don't forget that Rob Gunning has the same vacuum former as Josh does. So
yeah, but at that point in time, I didn't have any clue how to use that form tool. So that's why Josh got
got a DM. He got an extra project.
His name out of that. Yeah. So he said he'd mess with it. I felt bad after asking that task, so I started to try and mess with the form tool.
Dude, I mean, it looked like he got on it like immediately, like he didn't have anything else to do.
Yeah. So I think I was an hour and a half into one of the taillights, and I was like, okay, man, how are you? And then he's like, hold on, give me 15 minutes. And then he literally sent me an STL file, this file. I was like, dude, now you're just showing off.
Like, come on, man.
I think if life and death, I could have done it, but man, this looks perfect. And his only stipulation was, I'm printing it and I'm sanding it. Because he's like, I'm not doing that for you. And
I'm not doing it.
You know how he likes 3D printing.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. So without his help, I would be trying to figure out how to get taillight lenses custom. I might reach out to the person who did the Prado file on Colts and be like, hey, you want to add these to the file? Because someone's had to have needed these, because it's just bare.
Yeah, it's a necessary product. I mean,
I did try to. I don't know if I think I threw it away, but I had some clear Lexan that I did try to heat gun and like pinch and form, and basically if you've ever thrown like a plastic bottle on a fire, that's kind of how that started to turn out. So I was like, no, it's not worth it.
Not worth it.
It's 2024, so we have resources now.
Yeah. We have friends.
Yeah.
We have friends. Let's use their benefits.
Yeah.
Tom says you never added up. So Tom, in general, that is a good recommendation for most people. However, when most of your business is wrapped around RC cars, most of your business purchases are write-offs. So you do add it up, and you add it up on purpose. The thing about write-offs is you still spent the money. Like, it still cost you all the money. You just don't have to pay taxes on that money anymore. So, if you think about it this way, if you are a regular employee of a regular business, you get a W-2 at the end of the year. You're taxed on every dollar you make. If you make $100,000 a year, you're taxed on that $100,000. Yes, there are formulations or whatever. You're taxed on $100,000. If I make $100,000, I get to write off everything business related that I've spent for the business. So if that number at the end of the year is $5,000, if I made $100,000 and I had $95,000 in expenses, I'm only taxed on $5,000. I'm not taxed on $100,000. So realistically, the goal is to make $0 a year to pay $0 in taxes. There are benefits and negatives to that, because if your business makes $0, you can't get bank loans or anything like that. So, it's just like your normal debt to income ratios with earning $100,000 income, but it's the tax liabilities. There's a lot of games to play in taxes. I have, multiple CNC machines that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. Those all get depreciated over the years. This year this machine's worth X dollars. Next year it's worth, 20% less. Next year it's worth 30% less. The next year it's worth 40% less, until it's worth $0, according to the government. But I still spent $200,000 on that machine. But that $200,000 that I spent on that machine removes my tax liability over the next couple of years. So you do add it up. You add up everything. You add up every penny. You add up every screw, every nut, every bolt, right? So I buy my hardware in bulk. And if I buy 1,000 M3 by 8mm screws, that dollar amount goes onto a spreadsheet as an expense. I use those screws to build these trucks that I sell these parts for. It's legitimate. It's a write-off. If I buy the latest deluxe transmission, it goes on a spreadsheet. If I make a skid plate for that transmission and I sell those skid plates, it's a legitimate expense. I had to have that transmission to test fit in multiple vehicles, right? So it's a catch-22, because I need the latest, greatest stuff. I need the newest stuff that comes out. I still had to spend the money to buy the stuff. I don't have the connections to get all this stuff for free or cheap, but my tax liability is much less because I spent the money to buy the stuff. All I'm hearing is brazen we RC rock chassis research coming. You're not entirely wrong. So Tom Meiser, he's got the what's it called?
Arts and crafts over here, guys, by the way. Paint time with Wes. Tax time with Brett.
Yeah.
Right, you gotta tell them that you can't actually take that as financial advice. Disclaimer.
Yeah. I'm not a financial advisor. Gosh dang it! I'm trying to remember the Fabin 801. That's the name of the damn thing. Fabin 801. He's building RC tube chassis based off of the Rock Lizard chassis. That's my brain just turned on. Rock Lizard chassis. I saw on Instagram he was building an RC version of the Rock Lizard. So, I think it'd be cool to build, a scaled down replica of something else. Or I could just buy a Rock Lizard and call it a day. Thomas has bought, and Thomas's buddies have bought brazen chassis before. So in my opinion, I feel the need to reciprocate the support, right? Because they've bought stuff from us before. So I think
the real one or the RC one?
The RC one. I can't afford the real one.
I was gonna say, wait a second.
Logan says, Thomas is my buddy. I'm stoked to see those. I am too. So when he posted a picture of it, I was like, yes, there's no reason not to. The dude can build a 1-to-1 chassis. He builds with RC cars. Combine them. Let's do something cool. I do understand my wife bought a $17,000 embroidery machine for her side business last year for those reasons. I mean, I bought a $4,500, $5,500 sticker graphics printer and cutter and laminator for the same reasons. Like, part of it was because I was tired of paying other people to screw up my stickers for us. The other part of it was I needed an expense, right? Because it's all about trying to reduce your tax liabilities, and it's a game you play. But I was tired of paying somebody else to screw up our stickers for us. If the stickers are going to be screwed up, I'd rather me screw them up than somebody else screw them up, and I still had to pay for them, right? So, like, my wife's a graphic designer, so I know that the files are correct. And Wesley, you can attest to this. Over the 10 years we've been having stickers made, every single time we ordered stickers, there was something different screwed up about them. Like,
everyone got unique stickers because there wasn't one that was the same.
Whether it was the colors were wrong, or the profile cut was wrong, or they were blurry, or they were a year late, or like there was always something that was screwed up about the stickers. You ordered the exact same sticker from the exact same place, and something else was screwed up. And so I got tired of it, and I bought my own graphics printer, and it's been working great. Our stickers have been consistent now. They might still be screwed up, but they're consistent.
Everyone gets the screwed up stickers.
Yeah. Theron and Zach both asked about shirts. I have already placed an order. So as happenstance would have, a guy came in to drop his motorcycle off to me, and the truck that he was driving was it was wrapped in a local screen printing company's logos. And the guy came in and was talking to me about work on his bike, which we'd already agreed to what he needed done and whatever. So I asked him about his business, and he's a very large, actually, local screen printer. And so I've got 2 designs that I've already sent to him, one of which was one of Wesley's designs, and one of which was mine.
Is it this
one? Yes, it's that one.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So I placed an order for shirts with just the round logo front and back. I've already placed that order. And we're working on shirts that are just like the ones Wesley has on, with the round logo on the front and the same logo on the back. And but without X-ray. It'll be without the brazen logo on the back, though. It'll just be the truck.
Okay.
But
front and back logos aren't cheap, dude.
No, they're not. So, like, single. The nice thing is it's single color on a reasonable shirt. It's still the soft style shirt. It's still, soft, lightweight shirt that we always do. It's the same brand as the last shirts we did.
I don't want to hear any complaining. I'll wear this black soft shirt in Texas summer, and I'm fine. So
the nice thing is they're lightweight.
I don't want to hear it.
Right. So he and I worked out a deal as kind of a trade deal type thing where I'm working on his bike and he's working on my shirts. So kind of a whatever. So I texted Chris to let him know that we were on YouTube Live, and here he pops in with a $5 donation. Howdy, y'all, on the road, headed for Amarillo tonight.
Hey, dude.
But listening, wifey can chat.
Come on, dog.
So hello, Sam. Love you, miss you. Haven't seen you in a couple years. Haven't talked to you in a couple years, but you're still one of the favorite wifeys. She didn't hate me when we were in Colorado or in California together. And congratulations on the newborn, Sam. I'm glad you guys are all doing great. We were talking about the winch a little bit ago, and you haven't shipped me a winch yet, Chris. But you can ship one to either me or you can ship it to Wesley. I can text you his address if you'd like it.
Yeah, dude.
Either way, one of us needs a winch so that we can work with this thing. Wesley was talking about. Wesley was talking about getting one mounted on a high-low. And I think we can work on fitting one into the dual servo mount. On a separate topic, my buddy Tom, Tom got his new laser and press brake last week. The guys that he purchased it through are currently in town right now, finalizing the installs. The electric's all hooked up. They're hooking up all the computers, hooking up the compressors, hooking up the nitrogen, hooking up the oxygen. So hopefully in the next 2 or 3 days, Tom's laser will be up and running, and his CNC press brake will be up and running, and I can start feeding Tom some stuff to do. Be pretty cool.
Okay, that stuff gets gross.
When is the new mullet Class 1 coming out?
Whoa, who come on.
So the mullet Class 1. I mean, I guess we can.
There's some R&D going on, but we didn't. I didn't stop at just the regular thing. You've probably seen our drivers have. Working on a more compact version, I guess we could say. But I think once some of those, I'm awaiting some of the team driver feedback on. I need a detailed parts breakdown, links, and if it works. But there could be a pretty cool platform, maybe middle of the year potentially.
So the Class 1 mullet that the team drivers have been running, and anybody who has emailed us and asked specifically about that chassis and wanted to purchase one separately, I think we've pretty much accommodated that for most people. We've done a handful of non-team drivers that have that chassis out in the wild. In fact, I just shipped one today to Tim, TRD Adventures Tim, for his sister. We've made some revisions over the last year and a half that we've been working on that.
Yeah, it's been out for a while.
Yeah. So we're working on some even further revisions, some more fine tuning. When we release this thing, we want it to be spot on. So one of our team drivers actually won the EXO forward skid Class 1 chassis at an event, and he took a picture of our Class 1 mullet and the EXO C1 laid over top of each other, and we're like, okay, now we have to change stuff because it's just too close. The profile design is totally different, and they look totally different. But when you lay them over top of each other, you're like, shit.
So when I drew that up, and then I saw that picture, I was like, what frame is that? I honestly do not shop around I don't pay attention. I just do my own thing. After seeing that pic, how there's key features of frames that I look for and see if people's mimicking or whatnot. When I saw how close those key features were to that EXO, I don't even know what frame it is. Because, like I said, I don't like it. I don't want other ideas in play. I don't want any outside influence. But seeing that, I was racking my brain that night. I was like, how are they so close? And then it hit me when you're trying to do forward motor mount, transfer case. There's as close together as you can. There's a finite window where those two things run cohesively. I think that's just they got their placement good, and then we got our placement good.
Yeah, you have to have a specific distance between where the motor mount mounts and the transfer case mounts, and we want the front bumper to be in a reasonable location. You have to have some room for link length, but there's really only call it 10 millimeters of variance between where that has to be because of chassis mounted servo, right? Because the panhard mount and the link lengths and all that stuff has to work together. So there's really only a finite amount of room that actually works. Unfortunately, the profiles of the chassis look very different, but when you overlay them over top of each other, they're pretty damn similar. So we're changing some stuff up. Chris, I sent you a message on Insta or on Facebook, Chris. I think the link went through. Hopefully we can get Chris on at least audio here for a minute to give us some specs on that winch.
Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah.
I think we can add him at least in audio. It'll probably show up as a black screen on here, so it'll be like a 3-person, but one of them will probably be a black screen. It's dark outside, so even if he has video, it's going to be dark. So
everyone gets to watch this. So what I did with these, by the way, if anybody was curious, Josh or Harley recommended a wood filler, which I could have got, like, this is a 6-ounce. I could have got a 10-ounce of regular wood color, but I was like, man, I need some black filament. Why not get black wood filler for the same price? Anyway, you mix wood filler with acetone and you get like a slurry you can kind of paint on so that you can get a good smooth sandable surface. Or when you sand it, you kind of kill these lines. I scuffed these down pretty good before we went live, but I don't know. Everyone could watch these dry now, turn gray.
Yeah.
I was telling you, Brett, at 100% infill, these have been a learning experience. They're not exactly flat on the bottom, so they like to peel up. So I think this one, these in particular are a 10-hour print. At about hour 8,
I hate 3D printing.
At hour 8, I hear a bang while I'm trying to sleep, and then this thing getting shoved off the print bed 8 hours into a committed print. So these have been kind of a pain, but kind of dealing with that, I guess.
I think we can get Chris here. I just added him to the stage, so hopefully it'll pop in here in a second. El Chapo asked what brands on the press and laser. I don't know 100% the brands of the press and the laser, but he's dealing with Smoke Ranch CNC is the company he was dealing with. Looks like we've got Chris in here. We got a little bit of an echo, but I don't think it's that bad. How's it going, buddy? Maybe we. Maybe we don't have him.
Is that Daft Punk or Chris? We listen.
I don't know. The video appears to be frozen, and the audio was definitely not that great. So we'll give it another few seconds here. I see his face. He might be in an area with limited cell signal. I see headlights.
Oh gosh. Keep it in the lane.
Well, we might have to try this deal with Chris at another time, maybe when he's at home with a good internet connection. I am curious to see and talk to him about specs on the winch on a live stream or something like that. Yeah, he looks like we've lost him. He was frozen, and the video was frozen and the audio wasn't working. So anyway, we've got JJ in here. What's going on, JJ? And this is the second time I forgot to highlight this comment earlier, but will Mammoth wheels and bombs be released again? Yes, they will. However, the design will be totally changed. I'm about 75% of the way-ish through redesigning wheels. The flat-faced wheels work really well on straight axles. However, flat-faced wheels do not always work on portal axles. And I want them to work as well as possible on all axles. So that's requiring me to change the back spacing of the wheels just a little bit. It's about a 4.5 millimeter difference. So you're talking about 9 millimeters overall width different with a 225 hub. And Tom here commented the world needs narrow 2.2s. And so one of the things I've been working with is trying to scale up the design to a 2.2 also. One of the things and we can discuss this right now in the comments and in the chat here and see what you guys think about this. I redesigned these wheels in 1.9, 2.0, and 2.2. Going to a 2.0 wheel allows me to keep the zero offset, allows me to keep the flat face of the wheel. It increases the outside diameter of the wheel. It increases the outside diameter of the locking ring. But it allows you to keep a zero-faced wheel without having to modify the F10 portal axles. Because with an F10 portal, you have to pull the top screws out and grind the portal cover on front and rear to keep the width narrow with a 225 hub. But going to a 2-inch wheel instead of a 1.9 allows you to keep that flat face and not have to modify the axle. Is that worth something to you guys? My brain says that's an obvious choice, but it does require a little bit of a stretch on the tire and wheel, and it does make the tire more difficult to install. It's absolutely not impossible to install, but it does require a little bit more fiddle farting with trying to get the beads in where they have to go. You guys let me know what you think.
If I can mount them, anybody can mount them.
But it's a 2.0, not a 1.9.
Sometimes 1/10 of an inch is all you need, dude.
I mean, it is a stretch. So 1.9 foams would still work well. And actually, the one of the nice things about going to a 2-inch OD is a lot of the time, when your foams start to wiggle on the wheel or start to slide on the wheel, they bunch up to one side or bunch up to the other side. With a 2-inch lock ring, it actually ends up like 2.075 or something like that. Whatever. It's just a number off the top of my head, but I think it's pretty close to 2.075. It tightens up that inside foam just a little bit and makes things pretty nice.
You gonna do the rib centers like
that's a gimmick. I'm not interested. It's OT 6. Yeah, that's your OT 6.
I just wanted to see your reaction.
That's a gimmick. Has anyone seen how cheap G-Speed is selling F10 axles on his site now? So I just got on G-Speed's site because I hadn't seen that. I don't, if I'm honest, pay a whole lot of attention to G-Speed's website. But yeah, right, I am in the market for some F10 axles.
F10s, baby.
He has the F10 portal axle front set, plastic front axle set for $90.99. The F10 straight rear axle for $65, F10 portal axle rear for $78. I mean, that's pretty good pricing.
Yeah. Wow.
I'm curious if he is a Vanquish dealer, and if he is a Vanquish dealer, if that is map pricing or not. Because if he's a Vanquish dealer and that is below map pricing,
it's not a.
That's not okay. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if he's a Vanquish dealer. I don't know what map pricing is. I'm not a Vanquish dealer myself. I don't know if Vanquish has map pricing. I'm sure they do because most vendors do. I don't know. Look on Corrupt Carbon Works side. I know Corrupt is a Vanquish dealer, so whatever he's advertising them for, I'm sure is the same as Vanquish is advertising them for, which is map pricing. I like stretching my 4.75s on 2.2s. 2.0 wouldn't be terrible. They're not. It's not as difficult. It's just it adds 5% of difficulty to mount a 1.9 tire on a 2.0 wheel. It's like mounting a 1.55 tire on a 1.75, 1.7 wheel. It's not hard. Seems strange. I just saw his IG post come up and clicked on it. I don't pay a whole lot of attention. Everyone's buying them. They're sold out. Interesting. I don't pay a whole lot of attention to G-Speed's website, if I'm honest. I pay more attention to Corrupt's website than I do G-Speed's. And I haven't been on Corrupt's website in probably a couple months. But that was a good price. That was a pretty good price on Vanquish axles.
Yeah, I'm in the market for a rear portal.
I need to buy a pair of portal axles. The Frontline, I have the Frontline built on straight axles. Obviously, I've built this truck on straights and portals, but the portals I had to rob off the Hardline truck to build the Frontline truck. And I wanted to take both trucks with me to King of the Hammers. I had an extra set of straight axles. I did not have an extra set of portal axles. These straight axles I robbed from my Metal Masher truck.
Josh, do you hear how broke we are? Can you please hook it up with some portals?
I haven't seen him in the comments tonight, so he might not be here.
No.
Corrupts are 140 front and 120 rear. So, I mean, he was 30% off.
Yeah. Was
Man.
he just trying to move inventory?
I don't know. That's hard to say. I'm surprised you aren't a Vanquish dealer. I am not in the business of being a hobby shop. We've talked about this a couple times before. Austin from Corrupt, when Austin was on here, we talked a little bit about how much product he has and how many vendors he deals with. Man, I'm not a brick and mortar hobby shop, and I don't really want to be. I've got a pretty decent hobby shop a couple of miles from me, and that's just the way it is.
For me, that
everything just went to sold out.
If I had a bunch of drivetrain on my shelves right here, the stock would probably decrease one axle set a week. It'd not be good financially for me.
Let's try to get Chris back in here. It looks like we might have a reasonable connection now.
HD.
Yeah. What's up, Chris? We got you on the screen now.
Looks like he's being interrogated.
Hey guys, how are you?
Good.
Hey man, how you
doing? Good. Wesley, it's good to see you looking better this week.
Yeah, dude.
You're looking pretty rough there, buddy. You doing all right?
Yeah, no, healing up, man. Steady improvements. I'll be 100% maybe a week or two. Hopefully.
Nice.
Yeah, we haven't talked about that on the screen tonight.
Yeah,
about you being gone.
Yeah.
Let's get Chris to give us a little bit of specs about the winch that we were talking about a little bit ago before we lose him again.
So I can't, I don't remember exactly off the top of my head, but I do believe I sent you the dimensions, the bounding box, if you will. that was probably 29 millimeters by 36 by 40, something like that.
Yeah, 40 something.
Yeah, it's got it's a little bit shorter than a servo when it sits like you saw it in the pictures. You can put the fair lead. There is a fair lead that comes with it. That goes on the front of the winch, if you will. Said fair lead is removable, is not required to hold the case together. There's 4 M2.5 by whatever threaded holes on each side of. So in the pictures, you see the fair lead in the front, right? So behind that fair lead is the two bolts that hold it on, and then 2 more. Then on the back side of the case or the front, however you decide you want to mount it, there are 4 more on the bottom at the feet. You got to go back there again. Sorry, we got Lucy in the back seat, got a bloody nose. Mom's got her nose all plugged up. Well, you pick your nose, you get bloody nose. So at any rate, the feet is 4 M3 threaded holes. Those 4 holes can be mounted to a RC 4-wheel drive plate or winch bumper type mounting. What else? Let's see here. We're shooting for 21,000 RPMs, 0.1 amp, no load at full speed at 12 volt nominal. They come with a 4S compatible controller, 5 amp max draw.
And that controller is a proportional controller, so you can expo it down.
You can expo it down. Yep, you can expo it on your radio. You can step it however you want. We do a lot of momentary stuff, and mixing with our throttles, but it's auto trigger, so it works fine with that as well. It's just like what you do on the BR Mini, basically. Only difference is you're not plugging it in, right? It's 4S capable and no RPM gain on 4S. It steps down 4S to 3S maximum output, 5 amp, like I said, and that's just to protect the winch motor and the controller itself. You can service the motor separately without tearing apart the rest of the winch. You can service the gears without tearing apart the rest of the winch. So independently.
I gotta excuse myself for just a second here. I got somebody outside my shop again. Chris, you can keep talking. I will be right back.
Let's see what else. I don't remember what the weight was, but I want to say somewhere in the range of in between like a low pro and a factory, a regular standard servo, if you will, 1/10 scale servo, somewhere right in between those two. You can put 10 feet of line on it and have plenty of freeboard left. You can pull line out of it in any of the axis. So, the way you've seen it pictured in our rigs, you pull it out the bottom, out the front. Yeah. And that's just because it's got an open spool design all the way around. Caged, but if you will. What else? Let's see here. So 21,000 RPMs. I don't know. You got a calculator, Andy? Let's see how fast this thing goes. So take 21,000.
I'm speaking through the calculator I own.
Oh, I gotcha. We'll wait for Brett to get. Oh, you got a calculator, babe? Oh, you're busy. Highway 385. Anyway, whoever's got a calculator out there, take what is it, pi r squared? No, that's diameter times pi. Is that right? To get circumference. So take 2.5 millimeter, or let's see, 6. Take 3 millimeters times 3.14, and that'll give us our circumference. Hey, Brett, you got a calculator handy, buddy?
Yeah.
Take diameter. Let's see, 6 times 3.14. Write it down.
18.84.
Okay, that's the circumference of, that should be the circumference, if I'm correct, if I remember correctly. Right, circumference of diameter times pi.
El Chapo's saying 9.42.
9.42. That sounds more accurate, really, to be honest with you. I think you maybe squared something, but anyway, 9.42. So that's the circumference of the actual spool itself where the rope is spooling. So at initial line spool, you've got 9 millimeters of circumference. So we're gonna calculate the peripheral speed or the line speed real quick. So we take 21,000 RPMs divided by, let's start with 275. That's the slow gear set. So 21,000 divided by 275.
76.363664.
So 76.3 RPM at 275 to 1. That's going to be, so whatever that 76 was, that's the RPM. We're going to multiply that by 9. So 76 times 9. Actually, you know what? Hold up, stop. Let me think about this for a minute. We need to turn that 9 into an imperial number. So times point to let's see, whatever 9 is. That's like
9.4 divided by 25.4.
Sure.
No, 1.4 times 25.4.
Sure.
No.
No.
Well,
Use your converter. Use your converter
millimeters
in your calculator. Just because I want to put the line speed in feet, if you will.
9.4 times 25.4 is 238.76, but that'd be in millimeters.
No, hang on.
Oh gosh, I hate
It's fast.
Imperial.
No, so what it is you figure for every wrap on that spool, you're pulling 9 millimeters, right? At 76 RPM. So 9 millimeters times 76 is what? 684. 684 millimeters. 684 millimeters a minute. That's 275 to 1. Sammy, what percentage of 127 is 275? Oh wait, Brett. Are you there, Brett?
Yeah.
You were going to say something.
I forgot the numbers.
Yeah, well, I'm just trying to shoot this off my hip here. So
0.36 is what El Chapo is saying.
It's pretty bad. We're
0.3, yeah.
But
it'd be
Chris is driving and remembering.
No, it'd probably be 3.6. No, it'd be 0.36 inches per revolution.
Take the 680, whatever it was, and divide it by 25.4.
We'll use 680 divided by 25.4. It's 26.77. It'd be 26 inches a minute, though, wouldn't it?
6. Maybe. No.
Because you were calculating, because we started off at revolutions per minute.
Slow.
My brain's all scrambled.
9 millimeters.
The homeless trying to return a U-Haul
275, 21,000 divided by 275. Nonetheless, on the fast gear set, for a fact, because I measured it the easy way with a tape measure and a timer, we pulled
2.3 feet per second.
On the fast gear set, if that's what it comes out to, whatever that looked like, it was 3 feet in 4 seconds.
Yeah, 2.3 feet a second is 2.3 feet a second is absolutely dangerous.
Yeah, you see the video where we yanked it through the.
We're losing your audio.
It was my truck. It was Sam's truck, but we don't want to say that right
now. Yeah, Sam's truck. I mean the progress winch that I have on my truck with the fast gears, dude, you'll lose a finger in that thing. I've had it start drifting on me to where it starts
Same gear
line. Set. You cannot stop that winch. It will cut your finger off. When that thing starts drifting, it either yanks the hook off or breaks your finger. There's no other option.
So you won't have this problem with this winch. That's why it's taking us a little while. We want to make sure it's perfect, like you said about your chassis. We've got, we started assembling them the other day. But like I said, we're not, we learn from our mistakes with the progress and with I forget what John called it, but nonetheless, before it goes out, it's nice. It's a nice brush motor, so it's got a good heavy park brake. On that fast gear set, I can bounce my truck vertically hanging onto the hook and get the motor to brake free, but you got to kind of bounce it, right? And then so that's the fast gear set. It's 75-1. The medium gear set, which is probably how it will come out of the box, is 127-1. And then of course, you got your rip your truck in half at 275-1.
Right.
So yeah.
That will 275-1 will bend a chassis, guys. Just saying. And if you got that thing bound up with an axle bound up against something, it could potentially bend a link. Like we're talking about, if you have a line that can handle the pressure that the gear sets and motors can apply, you're talking about literally breaking stainless links or breaking set screws in the skid plates. Like we're talking about serious.
I think we'll see. Depending on how people decide to mount them, right? Because it's got mounting holes on all faces of it. You could literally capture with 2 screws just about anywhere with a tab, right?
Yeah.
Which is the idea. The first one I installed on Sam's truck, I cut the back half of the servo DSM out, so it just looked more like remember the old school 10-2 servo mounts where they were multi-piece and kind of like L-shaped almost. Same concept there, and I was able to bolt it. I just drilled 2 holes in the front and captured the 3mm screws through the front of the DSM. That's so far I like it up there. People are all stuck on this, moving their skid 12 feet forward and all that, and getting all the weight off the chassis. Well, I'm here to tell you, little science takes a little weight. I'm here to tell you. So everything can't science without some weight.
That I think 2 of us are half-ass on the same page, and one of us might not be. Wesley likes his forward skid stuff.
Forward skid's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It's a decent Band-Aid.
If you're not running dirt mounds, you probably don't need a forward skid.
There's places where forward skids absolutely have a place, and there's places where they don't.
Yeah. That I like that nice narrow belly. I'd rather just a few degrees. You think about what it does to the fulcrum points of your geometry.
Yep.
We can go all night on geometry.
Yep. I'm gonna ask this question to you, Chris, and I already know the answer, and I could very quickly and very honestly answer this question for you. But this question was asked, and I'm going to ask it to you one time. It says, can you ask him about the Chinese knockoffs? I heard a rumor that didn't sound right the other day. The TGH sold the transmission designs to China. I can absolutely tell you that they did not, and I will let Chris go on a 2.5-minute rant or less. Because we could dedicate.
We're gonna go this route. TGH designed that transmission after Scale Nationals in Tennessee in 2017. So the way that transmission came about is me and Bryce went to Nationals, drove his little Subaru, 24 hours one direction to drive tiny trucks for 24 minutes. It was truly a Cinderella story. We get home. This was, Deluxe had their transmission out. But you had 10, 12%, max you could get 18, 20 or something like that. And hold on, I got to pay attention where I'm at here. And nonetheless, we get back from Nationals and we're sitting on the couch on a Wednesday, and Bryce says, somebody should make a transmission with overdrive, like significant overdrive. So, yeah, we did well at Nationals. So I'm like, I'll start reaching out to people. And about 1 beer later, I'm like, I do gears for a living. Why don't we do it? And Friday we had a prototype and it was like he was cheating. So that was 17. We did not sell the rights to the transmission. We never really copyrighted or patented it. People need to understand that in China, they don't even have to pay for a new company name, right? That's what they promote. In order for us to try to stop them, we'd have to go over. I mean, you can see it on right now. You can see it. There's like 15 million different quote unquote entities that are selling the knockoff. And whatever, we get it. Not everybody's got a budget for the real thing. No big deal. Understand the impact it has on the community, though. And all I can tell you is that I bought one because, like John Holmes would tell you, if you don't run the other stuff, you won't know what you're up against. So I bought one. And the first thing I thought they were one-piece machine gears on shafts. And I was like, dang, okay, all right. And then I get to looking closer and I said, wait a minute. So I viced it up, smacked it, and smacked the shaft right out of the gears. So they're pressed on gears, just like what you'd see on an 18 scale motor, like the Viterra Slick Rock.
Which we've talked about that on the live stream before.
Yeah. So you got that. Of course, with an acrylic case, a brittle acrylic case, it's gonna be lighter. Carbon fiber plate, it's gonna be lighter. By the way, those plates are tight, Brett. We'll talk later. So I mean, it is what it is. Do what you can. I can tell you, the hobby's expensive if you let it be. You need to be methodical. Junction 385, right, Honeyberg? Oh, it goes straight. Okay.
So I'll take over here for a second here because he's got to pay attention to where he's going. But so the thing that a lot of people are going to find out about these transmissions, and they're going to find out about them at the very wrong time, is like he just mentioned, these gears are pressed onto the shafts. If you take apart a TGH 2-point low or a Creeper T, you'll see that the gear shaft has a through hole and a pin, just like all of the well-performing transmissions of the last 10 years are designed. The gears have a slot, there's pins, and the gears are pinned onto the shaft. These knockoffs, the gear is pressed onto the shaft, and they're not pressed on that tight. So basically, it's like they designed the gear, the diameter of the inside of the gear, the exact same diameter as the outside of the shaft, and then they put just a little bit of knurling on the shaft, and they press them together. These things are going to turn into a slipper clutch. When you get these things out fine, that's going to be your slipper clutch. And it's going to be the gears slipping on the shaft, and it will only do it once. And then after that, it'll never hook again. The manufacturing of the case, I don't think either of us can complain about the manufacturing quality of the case itself.
No.
But the components inside of it are not the same, and these guys who buy all these are gonna find out the hard way that saving $75 or saving $50 or whatever they're saving isn't gonna be worth what they saved. Not even in the long run. It's gonna be the short run. We're running these trucks at 3 and 4S power with a bunch of torque, and you bind these things up, it's not going to take long for that transmission or transfer case you bought to turn into a slipper clutch. It's just not.
Yeah, it doesn't take much. A little bit of heat, even just a little bit of heat from your motor. Oh, I hear a squeaker back there. Anyway, the other thing I would say is that no, we didn't sell it. It's only a matter of time. I mean, they went through our catalog. They went through other people's catalog. I would just say that the other thing I was going to add, I lost it. Oh, yes, our transmissions early on were manufactured first stateside by hand, in hand, by me and Bryce and Sam and Mike and the rest of the team. Then we moved over to China, and I can assure you that the factory that we used in China, so we spent many, many years being very, very diligent about not sending case, gears, and shafts to the same factory. We also vetted those factories to make sure that the reps did not commingle, right? So an NDA and copyright, a trademark ain't gonna do nothing for China unless you got money to chase it. We'd rather give it away. So then we brought it back stateside and we made, the EBR edition. And if we continue to make the too low, then we will probably go back overseas to our original factory for the cases. Just from a cost-effective standpoint. I mean, even doing that, I still can't make the cases for less than what they're selling the whole rig for. You know.
Yep. And Chris and I have talked about this on the phone at pretty extensive lengths. You know when China takes hold of your entire catalog, and they're about halfway through the deluxe catalog, if we're honest at this point too. You know, as far as the TGH catalog goes, they've knocked off the bumpers, the fair leads, the creeper tee, the motor mount, the two low, the chassis. They've gone into the G-Speed GMP panhard mount, the laydown servo mount. They're in the deluxe cut-to-length drive shafts and now shocks and a couple of the deluxe transmissions. Like, when the only fortunate part, if there is any silver lining, is they're about 3 years behind. I think as a group, we can all stay at least 9 to 10 months ahead of them. It takes them a little bit of time before they realize what becomes popular, and then they have to redesign it, and then they have to copy it, and then they have to manufacture it. So I think we can stay damn near a year ahead of them for the most part. And what it's going to cause us to do is put the pressure on. We got to stay on the throttle. We got to stay on the gas, and we got to continue pushing the market. If we don't continue to design parts, they ain't going to have nothing to copy. They can't design shit on their own. So we got to push the throttle and stay ahead of them.
Yeah, and speaking of that, we got a couple things that we're working through, a couple concept ideas that, again, we're not going to just design a transmission and put it out there just because we need to stay relevant or compete. I'm here to tell you that too low is on a podium near you all the time, up against some of the best of the best out there. Same for the T210. They're not irrelevant by far. It takes a whole tuned rig to make it work, but if you know what you're doing, you can do that. That might be her. Anyway, at any rate, it's all good. Yeah, like you said, it pushes competition. John Holmes and I have to remind each other that all the time. It's like, it's not worth our energy. Just drive you to do something better, right? Do the next thing. So as you guys know, we've stopped manufacturing chassis for the most part, right? We're certainly not there's certainly not production runs any longer. And we're going to go back to focusing on supporting chassis manufacturers, right? I mean, you know how we do. There's enough room for everybody. I've said that since the beginning.
Yep.
And John told me a long time ago, years ago, he told me that we'd be the ISO for chassis manufacturers, and here we are today, right? Setting the standard, sharing mount patterns and sharing files, and there's a lot more behind the scenes with those small manufacturers than people see. Right, all they see is what a keyboard warrior's showing off to. Fortunately, a lot of the manufacturers that have stayed and are tried and true, they don't feed into that. Right, they move right on, either shut it down or ignore it, and it takes a little while to get there. It's all good. So people need to keep that in mind too. There's a lot of companies that share a lot of files behind the scenes that nobody knows about. Us, look at us. Right? I mean, you got all my proprietary files, and that's key for you to do what you do with your rigs.
Yep. Rob Gunning says a good company can stand alone on their name. Quality components attract customers. The people buying knockoffs are the people that really won't ever be customers anyway, or be contenders anyway. I agree with the first 90% of that statement. So the people that buy knockoffs may not be contenders anyway, may not be customers anyway. They were customers though.
To somebody.
They may have been customers to you too. But let's face it. When a product that appears similar or appears to be the same comes on the market at 40% or 30% the gross cost, it's hard for people to ignore, whether they were an original customer or not. On the surface, it appears the same transmission. It appears the same skid plate. But, and the gear ratios may be the same. I don't know. I've never counted the gears in them. Did you ever count the gears to see if
yeah. I put my gears in that case. It spins fine.
Okay. But on the surface, they appear the same. And for somebody to go, well, this one is $35 and this one is $135, why would I spend an extra $100? They're the same thing. Well, they're not the same thing. They appear to be the same. They may function the same when you get them. I promise you it won't last.
Everybody's heard that buy once, cry once, right? So I'm going to say this. It's only $9 900 times. Right? So, you buy a $9 part, you're going to buy it 900 times. You buy a $90 part, you're going to buy it once. Maybe replace it after you beat on it. We never advertised a lifetime warranty or anything like that, but we've never even questioned anybody. So
that's the same thing we do. There's nothing on our website that states we have any type of warranty on any single product that we sell, but I can only think of one time in 10 years now that we've been like, man, like, I'll sell you one at cost. Otherwise, we've always sent a replacement 100% free of charge. We don't even charge shipping. If you break a chassis of ours, tell me the story, dude. I want to hear it because I want to know how you broke that fucker. Because our G10 chassis, you can bend them like this. This is a G10 ATL Pro V2 in my hand right now. You're telling me you broke one of these? How did you break it? I want to know because, I'm proud of you, bro. I will send you another one. Break it again, right? But there's nothing on our website. You can have another one.
Yeah, I sometimes I'll buy them back. I'll replace it, but I'll send them a return label. And maybe not buy it back, I guess in a sense, but I'll send a return label. And are those eyes? That eyes right there?
So Tom made a comment here. Holmes told a story on his YouTube that he got a couple of warranty calls for servos, and they were knockoffs down to his stickers. Only difference was one sticker on the box and quality. There have been a few of the sealed can motors from Holmes also on eBay and Amazon. They're not Holmes motors. They have the same stickers and they're knockoffs. So that's one of the biggest question marks in the hobby right now is your cases have the TGH engraved in them, where these knockoffs don't. And I saw a comment up here a little ways. I've
actually found a couple differences. And let's go back to the sealed cam motors for Holmes, the sport motors, Trailmaster motors, right? You can easily identify those in the output bearing where the shaft comes out of the can, where your pinion attaches. That will be a bearing and not a bushing.
Yep. And
that's the difference between a Holmes $15 motor and a China $5 motor. So, I've been on a sport motor for a long, long time.
Yeah. So this came up in our team chat the other day. I saw this comment up a ways in the comments, and this comment came to my brain. We were talking about this in our team chat the other day, where with the knockoff stuff, you don't get any customer service with knockoff. I just saw that comment here, but I find it very unfortunate that the knockoff companies are using intellectual property from companies like ours, using your names and using your transmission names. And so if you search 2.0 on Amazon, all the knockoffs come up. If you search G-Speed on Amazon, every single one of the knockoff chassis and every single one of the knockoff drive shafts and shocks and transmissions all come up. and that comes it comes with being popular, right? Because these guys see how popular your SEO is on the internet. And they see how many page clicks you have. They see how many people have searched your brand name, and they use that intellectual property and the names of their products to fool you into thinking that it's that product, right? Because if you search 2 Low on Google, the Garage Hack website comes up and Amazon comes up. Okay, I'm an Amazon customer. I've got Prime. I'm clicking on this Amazon link, and you click on this transmission and you purchase it for $42 shipped to your door. And you may not even know that you just bought a blatant knockoff, right? Because you never clicked the Team Garage Hack website because it's the second thing below Amazon. Because these people are so good at SEO and they're so good at ripping shit off that they've now got the top link on Google. So you click on the first link, it's Amazon. It takes you to this transmission with a skid plate and everything for $40-something, and they just buy it. So while I don't think that 95% of the customers are that oblivious, there's at least 5% that are.
Yeah, it is what it is, you know. That transmission's ours. It's been ours. It's all good. You know, we offered that transmission to more than one person before we were ever a company. You know, another difference between them, though, is our gears are different in the sense that our root fillet, the strength in the gear comes in the root fillet. Basically, if you think of the blank that the gear is, so the mass, the minor diameter at the base of the teeth, that's called the root, where it, you know, where the fillet is, right? Coming into the involute of the design, and our root is designed to increase the integrity of that tooth, each individual tooth. Now, I don't have a $25,000 inspection table, so all I can tell you is that we don't have gear failures, and I think it's because of that. I also think that it's, I don't know why it is, because the reduction's in the right place. That's another thing people don't understand. Reduction is key, yes. The whole reason that transmission exists and the layout it exists in is because I have tried everything on the market up to that point that we designed it to make something else work before I designed that transmission. And what you can't do, just like reversing the power flow, if you grab the tires on your rig and you spin them with the 2 Low in it, it's going to feel like it's all bound up, and that's called reverse power flow. And when you have what that is an example of is just like everything I tried on the market. So if you take an RC 4-wheel drive transfer case, you swap the gears and flip it, you're now driving your front output shaft, literally overdriving it. So you're using a big gear to drive your output gears. Your output gear will be smaller, whereas ours, we use a small gear to drive our output. So technically, it's underdrive in the rear in the 2 Low. We didn't use that term when we started with the transmission because underdrive in that era referred to underdriving the rear ring and pinion, right? And the rear axle. But the secret sauce is where the reduction is. That's for sure, and not a lot of people got it right yet. So I ain't too worried about that.
Yeah. So I grabbed my Class 1 truck here, which has a creeper tee in it. So on another front, when you talk about grabbing and rotating wheels and tires, if you grab and hold the front tire solid and you rotate the rear tire, you can emulate anti-squat and anti-dive by trying to rotate the rear drive. And what you can do is you're preloading the drivetrain, you're preloading the chassis, and that will emulate what your suspension geometry is actually going to do. And that particular truck is a terrible example because it does not change when you hold the front solid and you rotate the rear. It doesn't actually move the truck.
That's not a terrible example.
But it is a terrible example for what I was trying to show. where if you grab a hold of the front and you hold it solid and you try to rotate the rear and the truck stands up or squats down, you can see anti-squat or anti-dive. That truck doesn't really translate that a whole lot. It doesn't move a whole lot.
And that's what you want.
It's part of the success of that truck. Wesley and I spent a lot of time designing that chassis, and it does run a creeper T and a forward motor mount, which is also part of the success of that truck.
If anybody, it's funny. I said something about weight earlier. If y'all remember, whenever Eric, I believe it was, is that right, with Deluxe? Is that right, Eric? Yeah. I can't remember. It's been a long time, right?
Yeah.
But he was building that. Excuse me. He built that 3-link Sporty or whatever. Remember that? He worked on that for a long time, and he ended up having to go back and he had to remove his skid plate, his aluminum skid plate, and replace it with a brass skid plate. And the reason he had to do that is because the weight's got to be in the right place. And so, yes, you want your sprung weight to be, let's just say you want your sprung weight to be less than your dead weight, right? But you still need it for things to science, math and stuff. So I like that you can display that in that, and it's a terrible example for the demonstration.
The display of it. Yeah.
I'm sure you have other trucks that you could grab, but I won't go there. That's not very nice. So
I don't have anything within reach of me that does that.
You watch a good driver, and they'll do things like when they load up their drivetrain, they'll do things like get the steering wheel a quick shake, right? And that's to help unload that suspension from that torque load. Yep. And even in your rig, you still need to do that, right? Because once motion starts, it's going to continue in that path until you do something to change it. Yep. And I got a pretty good little write-up on RC Garage Hacks page. If you went in there and searched, I don't remember. You remember what that was post was called? I don't know. I went off on a whiteboard about instant center. And
man,
yada, yada, yada.
Link geometry, roll center, roll axis, squat, anti-squat. It's such a huge topic that, dude, there's just no way. There's just no way to break it down. I've tried multiple times.
I gave up.
Just I did a pretty decent little presentation, I think, on YouTube. I think once from the clubhouse. Maybe it was a Facebook page. I don't remember. But when we were doing the Tech Tuesday thing.
Yeah.
But, yeah, we could go on and on about tuning a truck. That's for sure. Just like the truck I had you just build me, the one-off basically for now, or close to it. That thing is deadly, dude. It reminds me like the original Buck that I built, back in the day. That thing is deadly, yes. Although I had to, I had to, you got to tune things, so I had to pull the front shocks apart. I had to ream out the pistons a little bit. I didn't want to go to a 3-hole. Then I had to ream out. I went to a 3-hole in the rear and didn't ream them out. And with a, just so I like my front to move probably twice as fast as my rear. And that way, when that rear shock that's compressed unloads and goes to flip the truck over, you got time to work it out.
That's one of my biggest tuning points is a slow shock. I like a really slow shock because when you get yourself into a side hill position where the truck's going to unload and it's going to roll over, you have an extra 2 to 3 seconds to get that truck through that spot that that it's going to roll over before it actually rolls over.
Yeah, but you can't do that now. All 4 tires on the ground or some crap like that, right? No, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have went there.
Yeah.
Just kidding, SORCA. Just kidding. No, I had a pleasant phone call from a SORCA representative just yesterday, actually.
That's a surprise.
It was good, dude. They did a good job. They did their due diligence. I made a post. Kevin posted something about cleaning up the old backlog, which is a great idea. But I'm like, okay, so now Kevin's on SORCA. That's news to me, or at least that's the way it appeared, And so I made a post that just, hey, can we get a formal announcement? Want to know who our SORCA, representatives are. And they do the audit, or the approval thing or whatever. And and they called and they said, hey, we were discussing your post and we didn't want to read into it. What do you mean? I said, well, first and foremost, it wasn't a shot. I said, my company, along with a lot of other companies, rely on SORCA. You make a rule, we make a part.
And we have no idea who's making the fucking rules.
And it's not because I want to pry them necessarily, but I mean, I guess what I'm getting at, the real point I'm getting at here is collectively we have $1 billion industry that is really sustained by a competition mindset or a niche, if you will. So, you look at a comp and you got 70% of the comp is team drivers, made up of team drivers from different various teams, and 30% is the public, right? Well, that's why are we not having some input, or at least knowing or being able to, know, my company relies on SORCA, and if SORCA is not going to do what SORCA does, because we all got to admit we wouldn't be who we are if it wasn't for SORCA, so we can't beat them up. But
preaching to the choir, man. Trying to conform.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, dude. I mean, it's all good. I mean, we chase SORCA and people chase us, right? And the 70% of the comp that shows up and looks killer, and that's what sells products. But if you can't buy a product from somebody and put it on your comp rig because you want to drive like Mama Bryce, then what's the good, right? I mean, the guy could drive a brick and make it look good.
Yeah.
He beats me with my own stuff all the time. So SORCA did, dude, they killed it, bro. They called and wanted to know, and I told them, I'm like, dude, I just, you got a lot of professional companies relying on SORCA to be professional, and which almost got me banned in Logandale, right? In Vegas, because you spend $30,000 to ship 15, 20 team drivers across the country, and, carte blanche, and you expect to show up to a national event, right? And with the addition of Dan, I think the addition of Dan is a great thing, dude. He's a professional individual in his career, which, is helpful. So, and then they need to find a way to get monetized. They need to be monetized. I've been involved in a rules committee for the federal government for a long time.
The fact that SORCA hasn't spent the $30 a year on a fucking website is asinine. They'd rather use Google. They'd rather use Google Drive than one of them spend $20 to $30.
And here's the kicker with that, buddy.
They can't buy the SORCA.com. The old guys won't sell SORCA.com, but SORCArules.com, SORCAcomps.com.
So hold on a second. Hold on.
You got them going.
I would not expect any of those people to fork out their own money, but on the flip side, they need to get monetized. So how do you do that, right? How do you do that? TGH can't go buy. I see you can't do that, though. You can't.
I'll host the domain.
Because
I will give them 100% access and lock myself out of it. I'll just pay the bill every year. I don't give a fuck.
Can't do it from a perspective of the masses. That can't happen, because the second that you poke me in my eyeball and I know you're paying for SORCA's website, I'm going to cry until my tissues are gone. Right? Think about it. That's the perspective. So what do they do? You got manufacturers that want to manufacture parts to their rule sets, right? We want to support SORCA. We want to. It's hard to do, but we want to, right? So how do we do that? Well, we pay a $250 fee to get a SORCA certification on a part. You file an application, it gets approved or denied, you lose your $250. It's SORCA certified, right? From this day forward.
$25. Dude,
hey,
so Wesley and I were just talking about
this.
That's
how Axial Fest was. Now it's $1,200.
Yeah, in the last 18 months, Wesley and I have come out with 18 chassis or 19 chassis in the last 18 months. I'm not paying $250 a chassis. I'm just not. I'm sorry, I'm not. I would pay. I'd pay
understand that.
$10 to $25
you know,
per chassis. But
SORCA
you know what that
sounds
does, though?
pretty good right now. Where's Dan at?
You know,
I'm not. If I'm not
you know,
getting a patent, or trademark or protections, I'm not. I'm sorry. I would much rather spend that money on trademarks or patents.
The difference there is, though, Brett. Check it out. The difference there, though, Brett, is that out of those 9 chassis or whatever in 18 months,
19.
How many of them?
19, not 9. 19.
How many of them really need to say SORCA certified, right? I mean, if you there again, you go back to quality control. You know who you're buying from. You know, trust it, right? But and then you made a good comment about SORCA Light. You know, SORCA Light, in my opinion, dude, the way Disney is, the way Crawlapalooza was, that whole 7 scale items. Now, the only thing I didn't agree with that is, like, if I'm required to have a bumper in my class, it shouldn't count for my scale point, right? If I'm required to have an item, it should not count towards my scale items. Okay, it's a class requirement. However, 7 scale points, you make it easy. You let people use their imagination, right? They'll work it out. I mean, look at the people we saw at Crawlapalooza, Brett. I mean, you saw everything from Dad and his boy with their box stock rigs to nerds like me, right? And you saw how well that worked out. But nonetheless, you know, that was awesome, dude. That environment was great. And I had a lot of fun. It was easy. It's, you know, I'm not stressing about the $30,000 I spent, send 20 drivers across the country to go compete at an event, worried about whether or not we got to go back out to the car and get the drill, Dremel, and grinder out, or the tape, or the foam, or the, right, you know, go to the hobby store and buy a new body or whatever. You know, that's just unnecessary, you know. And I believe that SORCA is kind of here, and, you know, it is not just me, but I think that they're kind of seeing that. I think that they're trying to find a way to get manufacturers involved. I think that they did the right thing. They called me back, dude. I can't beat them up. That was awesome. I mean, they called me within 30 minutes, dude.
Up they message me and ask me, I'm gonna politely disagree with you on that one. I think that if SORCA doesn't start getting everybody involved, they're gonna go away.
Yeah, you know, like I was saying though, you know, like I've got my own feelings, and I'm not saying I can do it 100% correct, but I have been involved for a long time, and so it's my. And I'm a I stepped down from that position. Obviously, I have a lot going on, but I was the spokesperson for my association, the Rocky Mountain Mine Rescue Association. And my association and the way we handle things with the feds is we all go to one place once a year. The rule change only happens every 2 years. So the first year, let's say it's an off year for a rule change, your spokespersons from your associations go and are the chairman for your association on the rules committee. You have everybody involved from mines to federal, state, local governments, and all the different associations, right? But we're monetarily sponsored, like, by our companies, right? My company flies me out there. They pay me to be there. They pay me to be involved, you know, I'm paid, right?
Yeah.
So SORCA, it's hard to do that. But if SORCA was monetized, like I said, with the application, it's just one idea, right? Some, you know, maybe even if it was just a support SORCA button on a website, right? Maybe us as manufacturers could do that. Support SORCA, support Light, support, right? And help these people. You know, you look at SORCA Light, that's sponsored by the people that own the companies that built it, right? And they do a good job of keeping it unbiased. You know what I'm saying? But you know, those guys need to be in a room for 2 days, right? They need to be in a room for 2 days. On an off year, they need to talk about the loopholes that they saw, like the craft foam bodies that were calling rigid, or you know, he's got a 5-degree skid on his class 1. Well, so does the rockers on his body. That's the rule, right? So you identify these loopholes, then you take them back to your association, you talk about it, right? You have some draft verbiage that you talk about, right? You do another, and by the way, nationals is only every other year also. So 1 year's coal, 1 year's metal. And nonetheless, year two, the year of the rule change, odds and evens basically is how that works out. Yeah, again, for 2 days. For 2 days, you sit in a room. You got somebody taking minutes, and everybody votes from the associations on the verbiage and the changes. And all you can do is send it, just like SORCA did, right? All you can do is send it and see what comes out, right? If you've got a representative conglomeration of input, right, from both non-manufacturers, right, that are industry, what I would consider like an industry professional, i.e. team drivers, the people that are 70% of the competition, right? You need them to understand the rule set. You need them to be a part of it. You need them to buy in. You need them to spread the good word. You need them to teach people. You need to grow the hobby, right? And so, dude, you might get a phone call. You never know. Because I flat told them what was going to happen if something didn't happen. To tell you that. But, and I didn't tell. I was clear with them. It wasn't threatening an ultimatum. We just want to see them continue on. Yeah. It's not as good as it can be. It's better than it was.
Dude,
and it's there's just like your company, my company.
Yeah.
And dude, that's real again, quick, they're individuals, right? Because it's not an entity.
Yeah. Yeah. So real quick here, we're about 16 minutes longer than we normally go, but I'm going to ask you one more question. and this might turn into a 15-20 minute
You knew when you sent me the link that I like to hear myself talk.
I did. So I'm going to ask you one more question.
I'll sit here and crunch numbers all night with you.
So back in the day with Ultra 4 racing, as you know, I'm involved in Ultra 4 racing. I used to race, and now I basically just help out. But you used to have to qualify for King of the Hammers through regional racing. How would you feel about having 4 to 6 regions in the U.S. and having qualifiers for nationals? Because as it's set up right now, the fastest person on the keyboard gets a spot to nationals. They could have never competed before ever, and they have a stock TRX4, or
okay, so
and they get a spot.
All right, here we go.
Versus Nabil may not have a spot.
Right. Well, if I got a ticket and Nabil don't, he can have mine first off. But right. And then you know how that goes. That goes for anybody. That goes for the guy I don't even know. But
right, but
until they're monetized and structured, and structured with bylaws, and being able to hold people to an expectation, there is no real expectation right now, right? And so, in order to hold on, somebody's flashing lights down here. In order to slow down here a little bit, we're kind of getting into deer country. At any rate, I like to be inclusive, right? I don't like to be exclusive. So I like that idea, either, but unless you have, well, here's how you fix it. I know how to take care of that, right? You have 100 tickets to nationals per se. Okay. So 70% of that is regional qualifiers. 30% is left to the open public or somebody that did not qualify. Right.
That's
you have,
exactly
and that pre-sale goes to those qualifiers. That pre-sale goes to those qualifiers as a pre-sale, right? You have
for a
7 days,
specified amount of time. Yep.
Yeah, because not everybody gets paid on Monday, right? And that's got to be understood. And then also, I mean, I'm all about it, but until they're monetized, and they can, what you got to take your regions. Those regions will have to be associations because the association has to host the event. Mine rescue, dude. That's just how I do it. The associations of the regions hold the event. It's sanctioned by the federal government. They sign off on it, and the federal government does all of the on-field judging, every bit of it. The only other people that do judging are manufacturer-specific that's how it works. And again, monetize. You know how many times I've offered to pay judges $100 a day? You know, and been shot down. You know,
Yeah.
And I get it because,
So
like,
it sounds,
it's just like I told you earlier,
sounds like we're kind of on the same page there then.
absolutely. You set me up on that. You knew that already, but Rick. But it's just got to be monetized, dude. Right? Because you need a judge. You got to have consistent judging, and you need 3 judges. You need 3 judges or 6 judges per course. That's $600 a course per day. That's $1,800. Let's see. So you have 4 courses. That's $2,400 a day. Is that math right? So $2,500 a day in judges, and then the drivers or whatever are going to drop a name in the box for their favorite judges, and that's your finals judges. So then that's just that.
So,
Dude.
so
That's
if you have,
your
so
course.
if you have 100 tickets at $50 a ticket for each class, there's $5,000. So you're splitting the driver's entry fees in half to pay the judges, and then the other half's going to the house, basically, whether it be SORCA or whomever. So the judges are getting paid.
Well,
the
see, that's just it.
paid.
So we TGA spent like $10,000 on top of our. We spent $10,000 on top of at Rocky Mountain RC, Keith, the guys put on, and the girls. We spent $10,000 cash above and beyond ticket sales to make that happen, right? And until you have somebody that can do that, it's difficult to do what we want to do, right? It's difficult. Again, monetization, right? And that goes as far as you want SORCA there to judge every. If you want SORCA, they got to make enough money to fly there. You can't put it on them to do it on their own, right?
Right.
So, just food for thought. There's a lot to be said about it, dude, and it's not an easy task. Trust me. They've been doing mine rescue competitions nationwide with regions and associations since the 1900s, early 1900s, late 1800s, and it still ain't perfect. But if you don't have structure, if you don't have documents and signatures, that are upholdable, it won't work, right? So.
Right.
So they're doing the best they can with what they got, but until they get monetized, it's going to be tough to make it perfect, right?
Right.
So the other thing is, what do you think about this, real quick? Here's my question. I think I know how to maintain the integrity of courses as long as necessary. You set your course. You have a week-long comp. So Saturday is your banquet, the opening banquet. Early tech in, run your courses all during the week, all 3 classes, all 5 classes, 12 classes, all 5 courses. Everybody runs a finals. So you come in on Tuesday, you run your courses, you go home on Thursday if you have to, right? And you do your closeout the following Saturday. And you set it up with game cameras and FPV stuff. And we catch you beyond the boundary, you're DQ'd. All tickets gone off the property. See you later, right? And that's just, you got to be strict like that to deter people. But with technology today, it would be nothing to get an email, a notification that the deer just walked through my backyard. You know what I'm saying? So it could be done, dude. And then now you can have 500 tickets, right? And you get people like Mama Bryce, or you get people like Josh D, or you get people like Matt and JJ and those guys, AJ, and you get these heavy hitters, G Speed, right? Yourself. And these people are all signing up for these days. Brett, when you going? When you going to go run? Oh, we're going to show up Thursday and we're going to run Thursday, Friday. Word, I'll see you then, right? And then you make that noise that, hey, Brazen and TGH is going to be there Thursday, Friday, Saturday, right? And you'll see that people will go then. That's when they'll strive to be there, right? And so
that deals so much on the honor system, though.
Not with game cameras, it ain't.
Dude, fuzzing a gate, you ain't catching that on a game camera.
Fuzzing the gate? No. You ain't running it. This is just to hold the integrity of the courses over the course of the week. All your gates are set all week. You come and run them whenever you want during the day, right? You got to have judges on course. Judges be on course from 8 to 4, Monday through Friday, for example, or Saturday through Saturday, or whatever, right? Whatever that looks like, Wednesday through Wednesday, I don't know. And courses are only open. These ribbons and these cameras only get shut off when nobody's there, i.e. the night. Anybody seen over there is DQ. Done deal, right?
Yeah.
So, and that gives you two things. It allows you to extend the size of your competition as far as ticket sales go, and give people that, like us, I mean, how many times did we cram across the country using PTO on Friday and then coming back late Sunday night or PTO on Monday, right? You know, stressed out. It's not available. This is when I go, you know. So, food for thought.
Yeah.
So if you can't tell, I never shut my brain down. I've got all
here,
kinds of ideas.
Yeah. One last thing here before we go. Mason asked if we're making any more pace setter chassis. So today, well, I think it was yesterday, the pace setter chassis and links sold out. I've added more to the site now. So Mason, if you are interested in purchasing, you can buy links and chassis currently. We're about 27 minutes beyond our normal 2-hour live stream. I would gladly thank Chris for being with us here tonight.
Yeah,
we definitely need to do guests a little more often. You guys killed it in the chat tonight.
Yeah.
Wesley didn't have to talk too much, so his voice didn't go away on him.
Yeah, I appreciate
it. So I think we're going to get out of here for tonight. I'm ready to get home. It's 10:30, and I've been here since 7:30 this morning. And I'm ready to get home and see my wife, and my son's already in bed, so I'll see him when he wakes up.
There you have it. One knobby at a time, one beer dry time. Drive smart, drive safe, have fun. Don't beat people.
he disappeared and he came right back. So, yes, thank you, Chris, and thank you, Sam, for hanging out with us also in the truck with you there. Good to see you guys both. And I'm sure we'll see a bunch of you on Wednesday night. Where are you headed to? Amarillo?
Well, tonight we're going to Amarillo. Tomorrow, Georgetown, Texas, and then probably up through Branson the following couple days after that. See our buddy John, probably. I got to see my dad in Rolla. Look at the mice. Squish, squish. Then maybe east from there and down. I don't know. We'll find out.
I can throw a football and it'll land in Georgetown, by the way.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll touch base with you, Wesley.
All right.
All right. Love you guys. Have a good night.
Yep. Later, buddy. Appreciate you.
See you, Chris.
All right. I'm going to end the stream now. Thanks for everybody for hanging out, and we will see you next time.
Yeah, next Monday.